Hey guys, my name is Ryan.
And my name is Miska.
And welcome to Overwatch Central. So Jeff Goodman posted on the forums yesterday talking about some potential Bastion changes that were coming pretty soon. Miska's going to go over these changes in a little bit more detail, but also very briefly, but we wanted to focus on what these changes would do to Bastion, how he's been effective so far, and in reality, are these changes actually going to make much of a change in this upcoming meta?
So let's go through the changes really quickly. I know you guys might have heard them before, but yeah, let's just rush through them. Alright, so first off we have recon mode. Here we got lowered spread and increased magazine size to help with general viability in this mode. And this is always good to see with Bastion. He's already quite strong in recon mode, I would actually say. His weapon is not actually too bad, it deals quite a bit of damage and the accuracy is actually pretty good. Next up we have sentry mode. Here Jeff Goodman says we're looking at focusing this mode into more of a tank buster and barrier buster mode, whilst also making it feel less suicidal to be transformed. To that end, we're testing stuff like increased spread and removing headshots but taking less damage while transformed. And this is definitely an interesting way to go about it. I feel like this might be the right direction to go in. However, removing headshots from Bastion sentry mode is definitely something that's gonna have quite a big impact. A lot of the time when you do big bursts of damage to enemies that might kill them or get them very low so an ally of yours can kill them, it is actually because you get a lot of headshots in. You're gonna be noticing that in the gameplay in the background hopefully. But yeah, that does actually happen quite a lot, so removing headshots from Bastion sentry mode is pretty big. I do really like the fact that they've sort of acknowledged that transforming into sentry mode is a big problem. It takes way too long and it really is suicidal, like Jeff Goodman says. Anyway, he then goes on to say self-repair. We've been testing a few big changes to this that are feeling really good so far. Currently our internal build has Bastion able to use self-repair while moving and also having it no longer interrupted when taking damage. To balance that out, it is now on a resource system, similar to the route D.Va's defense matrix went. These changes have turned this ability from more of a niche, rarely used ability to a much more powerful and core survivability tool. If they're gonna go down the route that they've sort of outlined here for sentry mode, then I feel like doing this for self-repair definitely makes a lot of sense. Self-repair was always kind of delicate to use and very difficult to use properly and utilize well in a game. And speaking of utilizing Bastion, let's see how he has been utilized in the past, what his history is like, to try and figure out how he will be used in the upcoming meta.
So there's a strong chance you've heard of these buffs already and might have already known about these details before you even watched this video. For that reason we wanted to include some other useful information and point out some things that we've not really seen mentioned in other videos about Bastion in particular. First off, how is Bastion played currently and how was he played before in the past when he was a totally different hero with a shield and stuff like that? Well, as of right now he has been rarely used overall and mostly used to break Reinhardt shields when defending and gun for full holds. And also a lot of the time towards the end of a game where the attackers have little time to sort of push to the end of the point. This is to surprise the enemy team and break their barrier shields quickly in order to slow the push down, allowing them to potentially only fit one actual push attempt into their designated time frame. We also see him on sort of potential surprise attacks and stuff like that, but again that's very rare the higher you climb up in rank. But back in beta we saw teams experimenting with Bastion in all sorts of ways. The El Presidente strategy of putting Bastion on a payload together with the Reinhardt Mercy and other reinforcements wasn't too rare to see. Seagull had a memorable game with his team back then against Cloud9, in which he played Bastion on Lijiang Tower to counterpick an extremely mobile composition that Cloud9 had brought out. We also saw Bastion just 4 months ago in the E-League Overwatch Open in a very memorable Nirvana game in which Seagull was nano boosted on defense, entered tank mode and cleared out the enemy with a total of 4 kills. Also about 3 months ago in the first season of the Apex Overwatch League we saw LW Blue bring out a Bastion again, put it on one of the floating platforms on Volskaya and used it on offense. So overall Bastion's had quite an interesting history so far, but it's very scarce in the competitive scene.
So that's Bastion in the past, and whilst it may sound like he's kind of situationally strong to you, most of us will know from personal experience in games that he just isn't really good enough and he is well in need of a buff. Being one of the least played heroes in professional Overwatch games as well as in normal ranked competitive, he does need a bit of help to make his way back into the game properly. You can probably even see by the gameplay in the background that Bastion is incredibly vulnerable, exposed and definitely easy to hit a lot of the time. So what do we know about the upcoming meta so far? Well, people are still sort of figuring it out, but overall dive comp is looking like it's gonna be very strong, used a lot in pro games, and also gonna be strong in ranked. So Bastion would probably be worked into a sort of anti-dive comp team if anything. Right now anti-dive comp team seems to be fairly tank heavy, so I don't really know how you work Bastion into that, but he could replace the spot that Soldier or maybe even McCree would be taking normally, and either way I'm actually interested to see if anyone actually attempts this. Like Ryan mentioned, that game back in the beta on Lijiang Tower, Seagull counterpicked with Bastion against a very mobile team that had Winston, Tracer and so on, kind of similar to a dive comp. Now don't get me wrong, the patches have changed the game a lot, and you can't really compare the game now to the game back then that much, but there are definitely interesting aspects of this in which Bastion could be worked into. But let us know what you think in the comments below and what sort of lineups you think Bastion could be worked into. We're always interested in hearing what you guys have to say, and with something like this, you need a lot of testing and practice to really work out where he could fit in, and it's definitely gonna be interesting to see how this one plays out.
And that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching. We're kind of expecting these changes to maybe come out tonight, similar to the Symmetra thing. We found out what the changes were going to be, and then within 2 or 3 hours they were on the PTR. But let us know what you think of these Bastion changes. We're seeing a lot of people saying that they're not going to be great. In fact, they're going to make them worse on the forums and stuff like that. But I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say about Bastion. Is it going to help? Do let us know in the comments below. And until next time, take care. We'll see you then.